Welcome back to Daytime Ottawa. I have some good news to share, and that is that travel is back. But the most important thing when it comes to travel is being prepared. That is the absolute key, and I'm joined by Elliot Finkelman. He is a travel commentator and owner of Elliot's Team Travel. Elliot, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thanks, and start packing, everybody, because we are back to travel.
Well, and you've been traveling.
It's a little.
You've traveled yourself, Elliot. We were just talking off camera the fact that you've been to the Galapagos. You're going to be traveling again soon. So, what have you learned in your experience so far, getting back to traveling?
So travel's a little messy right now, but it's messy in that same way. You know when you eat wings and you dig in it, it's a little gooey and it's all messy. But when you finally get to the meat, it's so wonderful. So Let me tell you, it's being prepared and knowing what to prepare for. That's big problem. One of the things as travel agents that we have to do is be aware of what's going on in the situation. So there's a few things we're going to talk about today that I think are really important. The number one thing is, are you vaccinated or not? Most places are requiring that in lieu of a no vaccine, like some places you don't need to be vaccinated, but you must have a test before you go there. But I'm going to tell you that the vaccinated person has got a much easier time doing any of this. So that's step number one. When you're traveling, be prepared on an aircraft, for example, to wear a mask. Right. I've done it for 9-12 hours on a recent flight. It's doable. You just have to, again, the reward is at the end of all of this. So be prepared for that.
Elliot, I want to get back to even before you mentioned those that are vaccinated. As far as vaccines go, there has been some confusion if someone has the AstraZeneca and then they've mixed it with the Pfizer and the Moderna. Are there certain locations in the world where that's a concern still?
No, the majority of where our guests are going to go, it's not a concern because now the CDC is accepting the WHO standard, which is what we've got here in Canada. So you should be okay with that. I always have to add a caveat that we've got to double check everything before you go, just to make sure well enough in advance. But yes, it's now been relaxed so that you can go with a mixed vaccine as long as it's one of the approved mixed vaccines.
Okay. When it comes to last minute hurdles, Elliot, what are you recommending people make sure they look at? So they've done some of that, pre-travel things like getting tested, they're double vaccinated. What are some of the last minute hurdles to look for?
So your pre-travel testing, depending on the country you're entering, they're going to want to test. Coming back, the biggest hurdle actually, Frankie, is coming back to Canada. You need a PCR test coming back to Canada. It must be taken within a restrictive amount of time. So you need to know what that time is, 72 hours right now, before within that range, and then you can get on an aircraft and come back. You need to make sure that you download the ArriveCAN app. That's essential.
Okay.
So that's really, really important. Coming back to Canada. And the PCR test is not inexpensive. Now, some of the resorts that people might go to, the all-inclusive resorts, are offering these at a reduced rate, maybe $90. Some might even be including it in the package. You need to know that when you're booking. Cruises, for example, may or may not, depending on the cruise line, offer that to people who need them. Some of the cruise lines are including it, some aren't. So you need that going. Now, going down into the United States, right, we just need the rapid antigen. You can get them all over the place, very easy to do. Okay. There's also self-tests that you can buy and use.
Right. Let's talk insurance, because insurance is always important when you travel, but I imagine it's even more important now.
Okay, so COVID coverage is something you must ask specifically of your vendor. While cruises are on level 4, you may have a little more difficulty getting covered, but then the cruise line may cover you. So you need to understand that. As far as all-inclusives, most insurers now will provide you with COVID coverage during the time period you're away. Do not assume that your credit card covers it. Do not assume that your current government plan. You need to make that extra phone call and say, hi, here's where I'm going. Am I covered for COVID, and what does that include?
Elliot,
it's very important to
what about resources? You mentioned one off camera. I believe it's called Join Sherpa.
Yeah, Join Sherpa.
Okay.
Yeah, Join Sherpa is a good one. JoinSherpa.com, and you can put in where you're going and how long you're going for and when you're leaving. It'll tell you what you need. The other one, of course, is our own Canadian, travel.gc.ca. very important that you go there and check out what all of the restrictions are.
And how far in advance do you recommend that people book their travel right now?
Last year.
Okay.
Last year.
Okay.
Seriously, and I'm not exaggerating. The earlier you book, if you're thinking now, it's filling up. River cruises, for example, 80% full for 2022, so you can't be picky. A lot of the all-inclusives. A lot of it has to do with the capacity of the aircraft, right? There's not as much capacity going out there. Oh, that's the other thing too, is connections, right? Be prepared to connect through another place. It's not going to be that direct flight necessarily, depending on how you do this. So the early bird always gets the worm in travel. That has not changed, and it still applies even more so now than before.
Excellent advice, Elliot. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Just remember, folks, prep, prep, prep.
Exactly. We'll be back with more Daytime right after this.